Okay, I will change today. So good morning to all. So in the last class we discussed about some of the services which has been provided by the OS and what is an OS and what are the different services provided by the OS. So now we will see what are the different types of operating system. Okay. So depending upon the type of the kernel and the kernel services which is going to be accessed. So then the type of the computing system where we are going to make use of that particular operating system and how the response of that particular application to be used depending upon those purpose. So your operating system is classified into two types. So what are they? So there one is general purpose operating system, other is real-time operating system. So you can see it here. So one will be your general purpose operating system, second is your real-time purpose operating system. So let us see what you mean by general purpose operating system and where you are going to make use of the real-time purpose operating system. So when it comes to the general purpose operating system, so your general purpose operating system is nothing but what? So which is deployed in general computing system. That is which we are going to use in your day in our day-to-day life. So the kernel which you are going to have in this particular type of operating system is more generalized, and it is going to contain all the required services to execute generic applications. Okay, so what are the applications you require to execute for to run those particular application to be executing all the services which is required, so that will be there in this type of operating system. And it need not be deterministic in execution behavior. That means it is not time bound, so it is not doing any particular type of application to be done. So now when you are going to have the delays, okay, so even if the delay is happening between the task which is running, so there is no problem is going to happen, even if that particular service is going to be delayed for some amount of time, so nothing harm is going to happen. So it is not time bound, okay, in this type of operating system. So it is going to be used and it is going to have some delays into application softwares. Okay, whatever the application software you are going to deploy on top of your general purpose operating system. So even if that particular operating system's response is less, so then there is no problem. So now, even if the responsiveness of an application can be delayed more than expected in some of the time. So that particular type of operating system which you are going to have, so this will be deployed in the computing system, which we are going to use in a day-to-day life. So in this one, what will happen? So in this one, where deterministic behavior is not an important criteria. So that is, time is not an important criteria here in this type of operating system. So time is not critical. So even if that services is accessed little bit slow also, then no problem. So nothing will happen to your system. So if you take an example of this particular type of operating system, or so your normal personal computer which you are going to use in your day-to-day life, and your desktop system. Okay. So if you talk about the general purpose operating system, the examples. So the example of your general purpose operating system, or one is your Windows XP or normal, whichever the operating system which you are using in your day-to-day life. So at the time of this particular book, it is Windows XP which was there. So they are given the Windows XP. But now we are already knowing that already Windows 10, Windows 11 is coming into the picture. So your Windows 11, Windows 10, Windows 7. So these are some of the general purpose operating system. Okay. So next, when it comes to the real-time operating system, what it means. So operating system which is normally deployed in your embedded system. Okay. So those type of operating systems which demands real-time response, because whatever happens in the real-time world, for that particular real-time world, the response has to be given. Okay. So those type of systems, embedded systems, when you are going to develop, so we will require the operating system which will be having quick responses, where it is going to demand real-time responses. Okay. So in that particular scenario, you are going to make use of real-time operating system. It is going to be used. So now whatever when you talk about the properties of your real-time operating system, so it is going to be deterministic in execution behavior. So that means, so it is going to do a particular task. So since if you talk about your embedded system, so embedded system is nothing but what? So it's a system which is do one particular task. So whatever the task we want to perform, so only that particular task it is going to do. So other than that one, it is not going to do any other work. So there, depending upon the type of the environment which is there in the outside world. So your embedded system should behave. So if the embedded system should behave, something should be there inside your embedded system to control all those behavior. So we are going to have this real-time operating system for that particular purpose. So basically it will be deterministic in execution behavior. And what it is going to give you, so when you're going to have the operating system, so you are going to run the kernel services. Okay. So here also, here is this one, what will happen, as we have already seen about the kernel. So in this type of uh, real-time operating system, so it is going to consume only known amount of time. Okay, so it's going to consume only known amount of time for kernel application. So that means what? So if you have some kernel services to run, so it is going to have the deadline for that one. So within that particular period of time, that particular service has to be achieved. So if that particular service is not given within that particular period of time, so some other consequences may happen in that particular embedded system. Okay. So for example, what we have given is your seat belt only. Right. So that is the best example what we can give. So where it is going, whenever the accident is going to occur. So if that particular behavior is never if your operating system is not working in real time and it is not performing the service within that particular period of time. So if your airbag is not opening inside your car, so in the accident happens, so something injuries is going to happen for your people who are been sitting in the front seat. So that is one best example what we can give. So in this particular type of operating system, what will happen? It is going to implement say scheduling policies. Okay, so you are going to have the scheduling policies. So for executing the highest priority task application. Okay, so when you talk about the operating system, already know that. So the lowest number will be the highest priority. So the lowest number will be the highest priority which you are going to have. So some scheduling policies it should have. Okay, so you people have gone through the different scheduling policies in your operating system, like round robin, first come first serve, priority based. So depending upon the type of the scheduling policies for that particular task which is running, so it is going to execute that particular task. So it is going to have the high priority task will be running always. So whenever the service has to be scheduled. Okay. So when in your normal real-time operating system, what will happen? So there are a number of depending upon the type of the operating system, different priority levels will be given. Okay. So always, if it's here the OS, operating system, always lowest number will be having the highest priority. So that is nothing but what? So if you have the priority one, priority 0, so this will be a higher priority. This particular process is going to run first. Okay. So that's what it means. So here, whatever the policies here you are going to have in your real-time operating system and the rules which you are going to frame when you are building your real-time operating system. So those rules are concerning to the time critical allocation of a system resources. So what do you mean by time critical allocation? So time critical means what? Within that particular period of time, that particular service has to be completed. Okay, so deadline has to be met. So that is with respect to the deadline. So it is going to have the deadline within that particular period of time. So that particular task has to be completed. So these are some of the features of your real-time operating system. So if we talk about the real-time operating system examples, so these are some of the real-time operating system examples which you are going to have. So you are going to have the Windows CE, other is QNX, VxWorks, Micro CR/OS/2, and EA, etc. So now most of the companies will make use of QNX and VxWorks as their real-time operating system. Okay, so if you have the QNX is having 32 priority level, and whereas if you take the VxWorks is having 256 priority level. Okay, so depending upon the different types of real-time operating system, the priority level will be fixed. So that depends upon the developer how he is going to fix that particular priority level for that particular real-time operating system. Okay, so Next, when it comes to the real-time operating system, so what we need to study about. So if you talk about the real-time operating system, so it's going to have basically the real-time kernel. So we have seen the kernel yesterday. So what are the services the kernel is going to provide? So in the real-time operating system, what it is going to have? Basically, in real-time operating system, it is going to have the real-time kernel. So when you are going to have the RTOS, basically the RTOS is classified into two types. Okay, so two types of RTOS you are going to have. So what are those? So if you have the two types of RTOS, so the first one is hard real-time RTOS. Okay, second one is soft real-time RTOS. So there are two types of RTOS which you are going to have, or two types of kernel which can tell. So that real-time kernel or soft real-time kernel. So when you come out with the real-time kernel, so next we will go with the real-time kernel. So when you go with the hard real-time kernel, so what will happen? So strictly it has to meet the deadline. So in this type of kernels, so strictly it has to meet the deadline. So if the deadline has not met with the given period of time, so some unusual consequences is going to happen. So in this particular soft real-time stress fund, so deadline is not that much strict. So deadline is not strict, but it has to adhere to the deadline. So even if the deadline is not met, not some harmful thing is going to occur. So that means what? So it is like your automatic AC controller will be there, right? So those things, if your AC is controlled for 1 second less also, so nothing will happen. Okay. So it is where you
You are not audible, sir.
Right.
it's audible right now.
Yes, sir.
Lekna? Okay. So now, if you take the real-time operating system, so in this particular real-time operating system, it is going to basically make use of the real-time kernel. Okay. So in this particular real-time kernel, if you take, okay, so the kernel which is there in the real-time operating system is referred as real-time kernel. Okay. So the kernel which you are going to make use of in your real-time operating system is called referred as real-time kernel. So basically, as we have already discussed yesterday, that kernel is nothing but the heart of the operating system. So if you take the real-time kernel, so that will be heart of the real-time operating system. That's it. So heart of the operating system. So now, what this particular real-time kernel will be having? What are the different features it is going to provide you? So if you talk about the real-time kernel, so your real-time kernel is highly specialized. Okay, it is highly specialized and it contains only minimal set of services. Okay, so required for running the user application. Required to run for the user application. So what do you mean by this particular minimal set of services we are going to have? So it is nothing but what? So if I'm designing some embedded system, I will be having only minimum set of components. Okay. So only I will be having the drivers for that particular component. I don't have any other drivers which is not used in that particular operating system. So what are the different minimum set of services which has to be provided for that particular hardware or by that particular embedded system? Only those set of services will be provided there. Okay. So that is how it will be happening. So next, when it comes to the basic functions of the real-time kernel, what are the different functionality your real-time kernel is going to provide? So similar to your OS. Okay, so if you take the normal kernel also, what are the different functionality of the normal kernel will be there? The same functionality your real-time kernel is also going to provide. So what are they? So the first one is your process management. So it's going to provide you the process management. So all of you have gone through the process management already, I think. So again, it will be revision here. So that's it. So next is your process scheduling. So next you have the process synchronization. So fourth one will be your exception handling. Fifth is memory management. Sixth is interrupt handling. Seventh is time management. So these are some of the functionality where your real-time kernel has to provide. So next we will discuss one by one. What do you mean by process management? What do you mean by process scheduling? Okay. So when it comes to the process scheduling or process management, so as we have seen that already. So what do you mean by process? So if you take about the process, okay. So process is nothing but a programming execution. So some program is there, that program will be executing. So that is referred as process, a program in execution. So that particular process have to manage it, how to deal that particular task or process. So now in your real time, so what it is going to set up? So basically when you are running a process, the process has to run in some memory space, right? So first, what it has to set up? Basically, it has to set up the memory space. Okay, first it has to setting up the memory space for the task has to be provided. Setting up the memory space should be there for the task. Okay, so next, loading the task code into the memory space. So whatever the code is there for that particular task, that will be loaded into the memory space. Now, if that particular process has to run, what are the resources that particular process wants to complete its execution? That I should have. So now, after knowing that what are the resources it requires, those resources I have to allocate to the process. So that is your third step. So I have to allocate all the system resources. So that is nothing but your what are the minimum hardwares which you require, right? Okay. So those has to be allocated. So allocating the system resources you are going to have. Okay. So next we are going to have the setting up the task control block. So every task which you are going to have, that will be having the task control block. So then and task control block, and it is going to have the different states, right? So if you take about the process or task, it will be having the different states. So basically it will be what initially it will be new state, created state, or it may be in running state, or it may be in block state, or it may be in wait state, or it may be in terminated state. So these are some of the states of the process, right? Which you have been studied, I think, already in your operating system. So now, so for those particular state, what we have to create? So where it is running, so how to differentiate that particular task, or how I have to differentiate that. So I have to for that to look after what are the requirements and what are the how the task has to run, what are resources it has to be allocated, and what part of the memory it has to require. So those things has to be setting up. So this will be set up using your task control block. So it will be having this task control block TCB, which refers to. So for what purpose? For the task to be processed and termination and deletion. Okay. So it is mainly what is the use of your task control block. So it is going to be mainly used to hold the information corresponding to the task. So it is going to mainly use the corresponding task is nothing but the process. So in which state that particular process is in. So that I have been told here, whether it is a new process, or it may be in running process, or it may be in block process, whether that particular process is blocked, whether that is in that particular process is in the wait state. So you have gone through the different states, right? In whichever the state that particular process is in. Okay. So that particular information your task control block will be having. So now what are the information your task control block will be having is the next question. So we have solved that it is going to hold the information for the task. So it is going to basically, apart from the states which is going to run, it is going to have the task ID. So every process we are going to run, it will be having some process ID. So if you talk with the normal operating system point of view, process will be having its process ID. Okay. So now next we are going to have the task state. So the task state just that in which state that particular task is running. So whether the start is in ready state, or whether it is in the running state, or it is in the waited state, or blocked state, or terminated state. So that is going to be referred using the task state. So the current state of the task. Okay. So the next is task type. So now when the task is running, it is going to indicate that what type of task is that of. So whether it, when you are talking about the hard real-time system, we are going to have the two types of hard real-time systems. One is your hard real-time system, other is soft real-time system. So now here, what type of task we should have? Okay, so the task can be either a real-time task or the hard real-time, or it may be a soft real-time. So it may be hard real-time, or it may be a soft real-time, or it may be running a background process, so that you can see it in your controller when you shift when you open your task manager. So you can go to the background process and you can see that what are the different background process it will be running. Okay, so that you are going to have. So it is going to define you the what is the task type is of type. Okay, so next is task priority. So it is going to give the priority. So normally, so when you talk about the priority, so as I already told that, so always the lowest number will be having the highest priority. Okay, the lowest number will be having the highest priority. Highest priority it is going to have. So that is nothing but what? So your priority number 0 will be having the highest priority. So your 255, if you have the 255 is the lowest priority. So normally any operating system you take, so normally it will be having 256 priorities starting from 0 to 255. So always 0 will be having the highest priority and your 255 will be having the lowest priority. So next it is going to contain the task context pointer. So what do you mean by task context pointer? So we are going to do the context switching. So it is mainly used for context switching. So you know what do you mean by context switching, right? So what do you mean by context switching? So context switching is a process where whenever the interrupt comes from the outside, so whatever the present process it is running, so that particular process has to save at that point when the interrupt arrives, at which state it is there, it has to save all the necessary registers, files, everything, and it has to give control to the process which is there in the queue. So that particular process is called as context switching. Okay, so basically it is the pointer which we use for context switching. So that means when the context switch, when the next process, when the highest priority process comes, so it has to load the address of that particular process. Because if you talk the process has to be residing in some memory location, right? So when you're talking about the memory location, you should have some pointer should be there to refer to that particular memory address, so that it is going to hold that one. So as you know that pointer basically holds the address of the address. Okay, so here it is going to store the address of the task when it is doing the context switching. Okay, so the next is our task memory pointers. So when you have the task memory pointers, so what these particular pointers refers to? Okay, is the next question. So these particular pointers refers to the code memory, data memory, and stack memory. So if you talk about the memory, there are three types of memory which you are going to have in your process. It may be a code, data, and stack. So for this memory, you should have to keep track, right? So at which address that particular data memory is there, at which address your code memory is there, at which address your stack memory is there. Okay, with the underlying. So you have to keep track that particular memory address also. So your task memory pointers will be keeping track of your code memory, data memory, and stack memory for the task. Okay. So the third one is your task system resource pointer. So if you are going to have to the system resources, so when you are using the system resources, some resources will be in shared memory. Okay. So resources will be in shared memory. So it is going to point to the system resources used by the task. What are the different system resources it is going to be used, whether it's a shared resources, it has to be done so that it is going to be used. So normally the system resources which you are going to have is semaphores and mutex, okay, etc. So here where mutex is nothing but your mutual exclusion. So mutual exclusion and semaphores, basically it will be using as a lock. So your semaphores, you know already that it is basically used for synchronization purpose. So that you people already have studied in operating system, I think. So next is your task pointer. So task pointers, it is basically pointers to other TCP. So when you are going to have the TCPs, task control block, so I'm going to have the task 1, task 2 has to be executed, right? So now which sequence it has to run? So pointer to other TCP. So it may be one TCP. So for this particular task, this TCP will be there. Now I want to have the sequence after this particular task which has to run. So now for that one to have the sequence or which task has to run next. So I should have some reference. So what is that particular reference? That reference is nothing but the address of the next task. So the address of the next task has to be there. So those tasks will be those tasks which has to be executed next. That will be kept track by your task pointers. So it is going to basically pointers to the other task control blocks. Okay, so which will be task control blocks for your preceding process or previous process and the next process. So basically it will be used using your what doubly linked list. Okay, so it will be used using a doubly linked list. It is going to be used inside your operating system. So if you see the code inside your operating system code, for example, if you can take your Linux code which is free of source in the net. So that code, when you open your process management part of that particular code, you can see that all the codes which are written for that particular task. Okay, so that you can see it, that you take as assignment and you look into that particular source code. So it is freely available. You can build your own operating system. Okay, so other parameters it is going to have. So other relevant task parameters it is going to hold. Okay, so other relevant task parameters it is going to hold. Okay, apart from the above different parameters. So now, what are the different task management is going to provide here? So whatever the task management you are going to have. So first it is first you are going to have the even it is going to make use of your, if you take the task management, it is going basically apart from the above data, what it is going to provide is going to first it has to task manager has to create the task. So next it has to delete or remove the TCB, that is task control block it has to remove. And so I have to read the TCB. So when you, why you want to read that TCB, I have to read the TCB in such a for getting the state of that particular task, at what point that particular task is running, whether it is in a ready condition or whether it is in a running condition or whether it is in a waiting condition or whether it is in the whether it is in a termination condition. Okay, so now once it is done, so sometimes what will during the context switching, so what will happen? So you are going from the running state to the waiting state or blocking state. Okay, so at that time what I have to do, I have to update the TCB from the update the state of that particular TCB. So that particular option has to be provided for your TCB. So whenever you are going to have the context switch, so that is changing the state. So whenever you are going to have the context switching, it is going to change the state. Okay, so next is fifth one is your modify the TCB. Okay, so I have to modify the TCB. So why we have to modify the TCB? Because same, assume that one process is running having the highest priority. So in the other process will come which is having the highest priority on the present running process. What I need to give at that time? So I have to change the priority of the presently running task. Okay, so I have to modify the TCB now. So depending upon the type of the priority. So you are going to have the change the priority here. So apart from above, which you are going to have, apart from you are going to have these things which the TCB is holding, so that the TCB is going to be used for also for this particular purpose. Okay, so that is you are creating a TCB for a task on creation, and you have to delete or remove, or once that particular process is completed, so I have to remove that particular task control block. Once I have done, I have to read the TCB. Why we have to read the TCB? We have to read the TCB to get the state of that particular task. So next we have to, whenever the context switch is going to occur, I have to change the state of that particular task. So for that time, updation has to be done with respect to that particular task state. So I am going to have the update option should be there. And if I want to change the priority of that particular task, so I have to make use of modifying the TCB. So modify the TCB to change the priority of the task. So these are some of the features which your TCB has to provide. So after process management, you are going to have the process scheduling. Okay. So when it comes to the process scheduling, what you mean by that one? What it mainly deals with? So if we talk about the process scheduling, so it means it is with sharing the CPU among various processes. So that means, as the name indicates, schedule. So what it is going to share? It's going to share the resources, sharing the CPU among various tasks and process. So if any process is running, so which process has to run next? Okay. So I'm going to have a number of processes to run depending upon my application or depending upon the type of the surface which have been accessed. So your process scheduling, what it has to do? So the process scheduling has to share the CPU among various processor threads. So now how this will be achieved? How the sharing the CPU among various tasks or process is going to have? So to achieve that one, you will be having the kernel application, okay, inside your scheduler. So you're going to have the kernel application called scheduler. So the scheduler, what it is going to do? So this is going to handle the task scheduling. So that scheduler is the main part in your process scheduling, which will keep track of which task has to be scheduled next. So what is this particular scheduler means? What this is going to handle? So this is nothing but an algorithm implementation. So you're going to write one algorithm. So depending upon the algorithm, that particular task has to be scheduled. So whether what type of algorithms you are going to have when you are going to have the scheduling algorithms, either you may have round robin scheduling, you may have first come first serve scheduling, or last in first out scheduling, priority based scheduling. Okay, so then you are going to have some preemptive scheduling is there, and non-preemptive scheduling is there, right? So this you have been studied, I think, already. So depending upon these are nothing but the algorithms. Okay, so depending upon the type of the algorithm implementation, that particular task will be running depending upon round robin means what? So each and every process will be given some amount of time, equal amount of time. So that will be running in sequence till it completes its process. So normally when I see the operating system, what will happen? So normally when I see the operating system, for me, it seems that only one process is running, but it is not the case. When I see the background, n number of processes will be running. So that's what, when you have more applications for opened, so your system performance will go down. Why? Because it will be using some round robin fashion or first come first serve scheduling fashion, or normally round robin scheduling only it will be happening, because it has to equally utilize the resources of the operating system. When it is equally utilizing the operating system, when you are doing the multiple tasking, that is multiple applications are opened and you are doing the work, obviously the performance of the system is reduced. Why? Because it is in round robin fashion. Each application will be given some amount of time. So till once one application completes, after 5 milliseconds, it will be operating in nanoseconds. So once that particular process is 5 time is over, it is going to schedule the next process. So till the time of that particular process will come. So that's why it has to wait for that particular period of time. So since it is in the nanosecond, what will happen for us, for a user, it will be seamless. But when you are opening multiple applications, then you will see the degrade of the system, degrade of the performance of the system. This is for this. So you're going to have the scheduler. So that is scheduler is going to nothing but the algorithm implementation. So now, depending upon the type of the algorithm which you are going to have, so that is going to perform the efficient and optimized scheduling of task. Okay, so efficient and optimized scheduling of the task has to be done. So what it has to give? So basically, it has to provide you the deterministic behavior. Deterministic behavior is what? So it has to complete it task within a specified period of time. Complete the task within specified period of time, within specified period of time, or it should have the deadline. So it should work with respect to the deadline. Okay, so that's what it means. So it should have the, depending upon the type of the algorithm which you are using. So if I'm going to give the process of 10 milliseconds, so it has to complete its process in 10 milliseconds only. So even if the context switch comes, so then it has to save that particular process. So apart from your preemptive scheduling. So preemptive scheduling is nothing but what? So once it is the scheduler is going to snatch the resources, like it is going to snatch the resources which is running already. Okay, so that is your preemptive scheduling. So that you people already read, I think. So in the future, if it comes, I will explain once again. So the next is task or process synchronization. So now, when you talk about the process synchronization, so what it mainly deals with? So now, the synchronization is concurrent access of your resources. Okay, whenever you are going to have the shared resources. Okay, so you are going to have the resource that is shared. So shared resource or some data. Some data is there which will be accessed by two different Now, if both processes are acting on this particular data, okay, so what will happen? There may be a change in the data. Okay, so I'm going to have this particular process. So if if I am going to change this particular, if I am going to refer to this particular data means what? It is going to be there in some memory. Okay, so in memory space, it's going to be there. So now, if I'm going to change this particular, if this particular process changes the data, the data will be changed. But for example, you see to that this particular process requires the data which is there previously. Okay, but this process is changing the data. Now I don't want the ambiguity of changing the data here. Only for this particular data, you are going to have the synchronization. So what is process synchronization? Once this particular process acquires the resources, no other process can access that particular resources. Okay, so that is nothing but what? So it is nothing but your lock. So locking mechanism is normally some books is going to refer. So locking mechanism on data. So that data is locked, so and that won't be accessed by any other process. So till the process releases. So till this particular process released. So this particular okay. So this till this particular process is completed, so it won't release that particular process. Okay, so that's what it is going to have. So normally it is achieved through semaphores. So already you people have gone through the semaphores, I think. So again, we have to explain the same thing. So when you are going to have the synchronization, basically for synchronization, you are going to make use of the semaphores. Semaphores you are going to use, and you are going to make use of the mutex. So semaphores is going to have two types. One is your binary semaphore, other is your counting semaphores. So the best example what you can give for your semaphores is your railway reservation. So whenever you want to book a ticket, so that particular the same between, for example, if I take from Bangalore to Mysore, I have to book one ticket. So multiple people will be reserving the same path. Okay, so two of your friends are trying to book the ticket from Bangalore to Mysore. So now only two tickets are available. Now what will happen? So for the first person is going to acquire two, but what will happen at that time? So he has acquired the two seats, but the other person should not be reflected that particular two seats, right? So if the same, only if in two seats, if both the seats are you are going to be accessed by both the people, it is ambiguity which you are going to have. Okay, so that is what the example which you are going to have in your process synchronization. Okay, so now what I have to do, once I book, when I want to book the ticket, the two tickets which you are showing to me, so if it is in a first come first serve, that particular ticket should show only to me, not to other person who is looking for the same source and same destination. Okay, so there you require the synchronization. So in this particular type of scenario, so it is a railway reservation is the best example what you can take for your process synchronization, where you are accessing the resources simultaneously. So concurrent means what? Simultaneous access of a resources, same resources. Okay, simultaneous access of same resources by multiple tasks. So shared across multiple tasks and the communication between various tasks. So there you require the synchronization. So synchronization is basically achieved through semaphores. Semaphores are of two types. One is your binary, other is counting. So if you go with the semaphores, that is enough to learn complete about your process scheduling. Okay. So the next is your error handling. So your exception handling. What do you mean by error handling or exception handling, which will be having in your RTOS? So that is nothing but it is registering handling the errors occur during exceptions, during the execution of task. So so sometimes it is going to have the divide by zero error we are going to have. So I have to handle the errors which is occurring. Sometimes what will happen, the hardware failure may occur when the process is running, and if the memory runs out. Okay, so insufficient memory runs out. So this particular task you can execute by running infinite loop. So you write a program which will have the infinite loop. So running after some period of time, the memory got exhausted and the program will hang there itself. So that's how you can execute in real time. So running an infinite loop in your C program or Java program, whichever the program you can have, you run the infinite loop for there. So if you are running the infinite loop after some period of time, so all the memory which is required for that by that particular process will be consumed. So once that particular memory is consumed, there is no memory to run that particular program. Okay, this is one example. Next is timeout. So once that is going to have the timeout, so it is going to have that particular the period of time which has been given for that particular task to run. So that has to indicate that whether the time which has been given that has been over. So next is deadlock. So all of you know that what do you mean by deadlock? So that none of the process. So one process will be waiting for the other process to release its resources. So I assume that I have P1 and P2, P3 has to run. So this is acquired some resources. Okay, this is acquired some resources through semaphore, but the same resource will be really but the same resource will be want by P1 to execute. Okay, the same resource is required. So, but this particular process for some reason it has stopped working. So it has gone to the wait state. Since it has gone to the wait state, this particular resources is not released. So till it releases this particular resources, this particular process cannot start. So this is what the deadlock means. None of the process will be running. So all the process will be in the waiting state only. Okay. So so that is what the deadlock means. So when you are going to have another example of deadline missing, so you are going to miss the deadline within that particular period of time. So if that particular task is not going to complete. So next is you are going to have the bus error. So bus error is there whenever you are going to have the bus. So we know already. So you are going to have the different buses. So if there is any problem in the bus, so the data cannot be transferred from one place to another place. So when you are going to have that particular type of error, so it is going to have the exception. So exception is going to have. So other is divide by zero. So another is divide by zero is another example. Unknown instruction execution is another example which you are going to have. Okay. So these are some of the error exception handling which you are going to have. Okay. So why this error exceptions will happen is the next question. Why this will happen? Due to the kernel service resources deadlock. So due to the deadlock also this exception may occur. If you take at the task level, so timeout often is an example for a task level exception. So it is at the task level exception. Okay, so this is what will happen when you are going to encounter with the error or exception. So that is exception is nothing but what the where your process is not running normally. So due to some issues, that particular process is not going to run smoothly. So that's what that particular exception is going to occur. Okay. So I will stop here. So tomorrow we will start with your memory. Next class we will start with your memory management. So anybody